At Riverfront, a fairly warm day, according to the weatherman, as we said, around 85, 86 degrees. But this ballpark, and especially Busch Stadium in St. Louis, when the sun is really shining in a July or August afternoon, you've got to hike it 25 degrees when you talk about the way it can feel at its hottest down on that field.
And this has been one of those summers when the dog days came very early. They came way back at the end of May, and I would think that conditioning of athletes and age will be a factor in pennant races. Those older teams might struggle a little bit in September because of all this hot weather and the temperatures they've seen so far.
The man who will go to the mound for the Reds, Jose Rio, is the son-in-law of a man you faced at least once in the 1962 World Series. His wife, Rosie, is the daughter of the great Hall of Fame right-hander Juan Marichal.
I asked Jose before last night's game how often he speaks to Juan. He said every day. I said, you're exaggerating. He said, no, every day. I said, what does he tell you? He said, he's my worst critic. My last ball game, he told me I wasn't finishing off hitters. I've got to do something different. Here's the lineup you'll face, Bob.
The well-traveled Otis Dixon. He's been with several organizations. Switch-hitting speedster. He'll be in left field. David Martinez, just over from the Cubs, will be the center fielder. Andres Galarraga, already among the half-dozen or so best players in baseball. He'll hit third and play first base. Hubie Brooks, the cleanup man. Tim Wallach at third. Tom Foley at second base. Santovenia is the catcher, and they have high hopes for this youngster. Good receiver, and if he can hit 250, they'll be delighted. Rex Hudler, a guy who spent some time in the American League, now finds himself here in Montreal. He'll play shortstop. And Bryn Smith, who was 18-5, you'll recall, back in 1985 before having trouble with injuries, on his way back, a record of 6-6.
If there is a problem that has plagued the Cincinnati Reds Pete Rose run team, it has been their defense. Cal Daniels, Eric Davis still smarting over a drug story. Allegedly came out that he was involved in drugs about 6 weeks ago. O'Neill and Wright. Saba Oster at short, first time he started there since way back in '82. Larkin has jammed his fingers. Treadway, Saski, and Reed behind the plate. Diaz also hurt.
Let's clarify, just so that someone wasn't walking into the room and heard the tail end of it. There was a rumor concerning Eric Davis and drugs, and he reacted angrily and righteously to that rumor because there is absolutely no proof of it. And he said very flatly, I'm a talented young player. I've had trouble with injuries. My performance has slumped, and I resent the immediate suspicion that there's something other than a baseball reason for that. And no one has been able to substantiate that story. And it was a very unfortunate thing to have come out. He's a nice young man.
Well, they said that that was one of the reasons, reportedly, that they were talking about trading him. And there was an unknown executive quoted, apparently, by the two writers. Hal McCoy, the Dayton News, really shot the story down. Even at that, Davis wouldn't speak with him.
Nixon steps in, shows the bunt, and takes the strike. Greg Bonin, the plate umpire. Bob Davidson at first, the crew chief, the man the players called God. Doug Harvey at second, Jerry Crawford at third. It's popped to the left side, and Daniels near the line for the catch.
Rio not only throws hard, but he has a great slider. Will throw it any time in the count, even when he's behind. He throws a forkball, and that, what I think is really the pitch of the 80s, not the split-finger fastball, the circle change. So many more are throwing it. It almost looks like the Marichal screwball, but not quite.
With that 11-4 record, an ERA of 2.54, as impressive as it is, Rio has been even better of late. 3-1 in his last 4 starts. The only loss in that stretch, 1-0 to the Phillies. His ERA in those 4 starts barely over a run a game. And he can strike you out. He's averaging about 1 per inning pitched.
He was in the major leagues with the Yankees as a teenager. Then Jackie Moore, a Montreal coach, had him out at Oakland. Couldn't throw strikes. Started the season here in the bullpen, but he's been amazing, as this whole staff has, this 4-man rotation.
Sabo at third was playing even with the bag and has lots of time to throw Martinez out.
Bob, both these teams, Montreal and Cincinnati, have been in somewhat of hitting slumps as a team. There have been individuals hitting the ball well, off and on. But really, it's been their pitching that has carried them. Both teams' starting pitching has been just terrific over the last 3 or 4 weeks.
The All-Star break came at a bad time for the Expos. They had won 7 in a row, felt they had some momentum going. Maybe it's an excuse or hindsight, but they thought that the break slowed that momentum. Now they're in a little bit of a tailspin. They've dropped 5 of their last 6. The Reds have won 4 of 5, on the other hand.
Galarraga's been on a huge strikeout pace, especially lately.
Down the right side. Let's see if it stays in for O'Neill. And in foul ground, he makes the catch. So Rio retires the Expos in order. We'll be back to Riverfront in a minute.
I was known as a smart football player. And even now, when I'm enjoying a great tasting Miller Lite, I use my head.
Well, how's that, Gary?
For great taste, there's only one light beer, Miller Lite.
10 ounces of Armor All Protectant for just $1.69. And light your home with the Intermatic Timer for $3.88. They help you find the thing, then they show you how to use it. Hey, let me tell you, Ace is the place for me.
Does car shopping confuse you? If you've shopped, and I have, you'll find the one place where the confusion ends is your Buick dealer. That's why I just bought a brand new Buick Regal. Regal is actually priced under T-Bird and Cougar. The new Regal just looks like it costs thousands more. So don't get confused. Shop where you like, but start at your Buick dealer. The car is Regal, but the price sure isn't.
The great American love belongs to Buick.
If you're a business person and you're making a long-distance call, to call your customer, to call your supplier, before you hit that 11th digit, we've mapped out that entire call across the network, irrespective of where you're calling. You've got 21 different paths to get there. Okay, that's important from a reliability point of view. We've checked the quality of the circuit you're going to be on before you actually start speaking. We've done a service check. We're actually doing 75 million service checks per day, because that's how many calls we complete. I don't think most people realize that.
Well, well, fancy this. Faucets, so fabulous, they appear to cost a fortune, but don't. For these are Price Vista faucets. Far more than pretty faces. They're forged with a heart of solid brass, so you'll discover they're very fuss-free. All this at prices that make them a find, a real find. So do yourself a favor. Get a Price Vista, the fabulous faucet with a funny name.
Pete Rose's lineup: Daniels, Treadway, Sabo, Davis in the cleanup spot, O'Neill, very underrated, good left-handed hitter, Isaski at first, Jeff Reed over from the Expos is the catcher, Oster starting at shortstop for the first time in more than 5 years, Rio the pitcher. Smith misses low to Daniels, who's drawn 60 walks and is the leader in on-base percentage, 409, leads the National League in that category. Smith has always been a good control pitcher, averaging barely more than a walk a game this year, and for his career, only about 2 walks per 9 innings. He won't overpower you, but he spots the ball well.
Outstanding palm ball, a big pitch for him. Doesn't throw hard. Middle 80s at times, little curveball. Throws a lot of different pitches, but Larry Barnard, his pitching coach, said his control is too good. And he wants him today to, when he gets 0-2, if he does, make some of these Cincinnati hitters go out of their strike zone. They're a free-swinging ball club with the exception of Cal Daniels at the plate. They like to hack. So sometimes he throws too many strikes.
And a strike on 3-0. He was telling me that in the clubhouse. He said, look, I'd get ahead of a hitter 0-2, and instead of wasting a pitch or throwing a pitch to try and get him to go after a bad one, I come in with a pitch too good. I'm getting hurt on 0-2 all the time. That can't happen to a good big league pitcher. Now the count is full.
And he's pitching to a guy in Calvasky Daniels who likes to see a lot of pitches early. Some think he takes too many pitches. He should be trying to pull in certain situations, hit more home runs.
He came back to strike him out.
Otis Nixon moves from center field to left. David Martinez, most people feel that Montreal got the best of the Martinez for Webster deal. Mitch Webster going to the Cubs. Hubie Brooks and rights. Wallach not driving in runs, but fielding well. Hudler, Luis Rivera having only 2 good defensive games in the last week and a half. In the words of Buck Rogers, is benched today. Foley, Galarraga, the sensation at first.
And a strike to Treadway. Treadway's usual infield partner, Barry Larkin, who made the All-Star team, jammed some fingers sliding across home plate with a first-inning run last night. Oster has replaced him. That's out of play.
That game was wild last night. Both teams, both managers, Rogers and Pete Rose, starting runners at will. But when they were stealing a lot of bases, when it came to running the bases, they were running recklessly. They were getting thrown out all over the place. With the sunglasses, Larry Bernard, and that's Buck Rogers, who managed the Brewers, but he's learned a lot also since then.
You know, people forget that very quietly the Expos were in the race last year. They were within 2 or 3 of the Cardinals, hanging right there with the Mets till the last week or so. Now they trail by 10 in the East. And Greg Bonin punches Treadway out of there. 2 straight strikeouts for Bryn Smith.
And Bryn Smith, Pennsylvania, his catcher, just found out something about Bonin. If he continues to give him this pitch up in the strike zone and away, Bryn Smith's control is good enough that he will stay out of the strike zone just like that. Bonin calls him out. He'll keep throwing it there. His control's that good.
Smith tells me he's been watching Rick Russell very closely of late, trying to see if he can get his wide variety of pitches each to sink a little bit, which is what Russell does with about everything he throws.
What was it, Don Zimmer, when Russell beat them about a week and a half ago, said about Russell? He said, my hitters go up there looking for something slow. Then he throws him something slower. Then when they go up looking something slower, he throws it faster. He said Russell's the hardest guy to get a book on in the entire National League. He changes speed so well. And with that natural sinker, of course.
2-0 to Sabo. Misses low and away. Sabo about the most popular man in town. Sabo t-shirts and caps. Somebody's going to start marketing those goggles eventually. Sports' second most famous goggle wearer after Kareem, I guess.
He picked them up at a Sears store, I think. Just picked them off the rack and said, you make these prescriptions? They said, yeah. He said, give me a couple pair.
He walked it.
And he loves to run. Leading his ball club with all the speed they've got in stolen bases. When you figure Larkin and Daniels and Eric Davis especially, Sabo making the minimum 62.5 has been kind of a leader on this ball club on the field.
He's stolen 30. Larkin next on Pete Rose's club with 26. Remember in the All-Star game here, Sabo didn't get to bat or play the field, but Whitey Herzog used him as a pinch runner, and he immediately stole second.
He's got the perpetual green light on this ball club with Pete Rose, and about the first 5 hitters in the lineup do.
Eric Davis was hitting .220 on June 1st. He's come on since then.
What Pete will do, he did it last night. Even though Davis is up, he still will let Sabo or some of the others run with 2 outs. They let first base open. He said, go ahead, you want to walk him, but if I get a base, I'm going to take it from you.
He's going. Pitch out. The throw is high and into center field. It's cut off by Hudler, drifting back from shortstop, so Sabo has to stay at second.
Pete Rose puts a left-handed batter behind Eric Davis if they decide to walk him, because he's been on a pretty good hot streak the last week and a half, but hit over 300 for the last 6 weeks. Pitch out. And I always wonder why, when you know pitch out is coming, you would catch the ball with one hand on the wrong side of your body on your left, so it takes even longer to get rid of the ball. Not very good execution on the pitch out by Santovania.
The 1-0 to Davis. Foul back. Eric has had just about every imaginable injury. None has been serious, but they have been nagging injuries, big and small. Bruised left leg in that frightful collision with Jeff Treadway. Missed 3 games because of that. Atlee Hammaker hit him on the elbow with a pitch. He's had a sprained ankle, a hamstring injury.
Says he's got some nerve damage in his right wrist or hand, which hurts his swing. But everybody that has seen him over the last 3 or 4 weeks say, no matter what he is saying about injuries, he is playing now like he's healthy. No one has more bat speed through the strike zone than this guy. What does he weigh? About 175 pounds. But you look at his arms and his forearms especially, like Henry Aaron, generated such strength.
Had a good cut at a high heater and couldn't catch up with it.
That's the pitch about the middle of last year. Most of the power pitches, even those like Bryn Smith, who don't throw particularly hard, try to throw the ball to Eric Davis. Tie him up inside, Don't let him get his hands extended and arms extended. Up and in.
Sabo at second, 2 out, and the 2-2 pitch.
Bernard was saying, Bobby, just like we talked to Larry and also Bryn Smith, not too many strikes. Move inside, move him off the plate on occasion.
Paul O'Neill on deck. Wrap to third. Wallach on the second hop. Takes care of Davis. No runs, no hits. A walk, a Sabo stolen base, a man left. No score after 1 in Cincy.
You're on the road to the top. There's no time to stop. You're gonna make your dreams come true. Here's your address for success, Park Avenue. It's your room with the view. It's your road to command. Every street feels like Park Avenue. The great American road belongs to Buick.
Thank you, everybody. That's it for today.
After a long day of eating hot lead, there's nothing better than drinking a cold Miller Lite. Light sure tastes great, and it really is less filling.
Shoot, there's only one light beer, Miller Lite.
Hey, Joe, give me another. That didn't fill me up at all.
Dreaming the dreams of America.
Why do so many people choose GMAC financing to get the GM car or truck of their dreams? GMAC makes it easy. You do it all right at your GM dealers. And we make it easy on your budget with rates and terms to fit your needs. Don't just dream about a new GM car or truck. See your GM dealer about GMAC financing. GMAC! Official sponsor of America's Dreams.
Next Sunday, live from Wembley Stadium, the San Francisco 49ers battle the Miami Dolphins. American football from jolly old England and NBC Sports.
Some of these fans follow the Reds religiously. And we hope the good sisters enjoy the afternoon. Rio worked the perfect first. He'll start with Brooks, followed by Wallach and Foley in the second.
You handled that so judiciously. They were passing the cerveza to somebody on the other side of the stands.
Just playing good Samaritans. Ball 1 to Hubie.
Leading the ball club in RBIs. He's always been one of those guys late in the ball game. 2 outs, get you a lot of RBIs. Hugh to right field hadn't seemed to bother him at all. He made an outstanding throw to get a player at home plate last night.
2-0. Check swing roller to third. Brooks is disgusted with himself as Sabo throws him out.
Give you an example of Jose Rio. 2 balls, no strikes. He had the cleanup hitter up, and Brooks sitting on the fastball. He threw the slider. That's how much confidence he had in that slider. The old Johnny saying axiom: if you can throw a breaking ball over the strip, over the plate, any time in the count, behind in the count, you can win 20.
Here's Wallach at 262. Fastball for a strike.
He will change speeds on that slider.
As you mentioned, it seems like Rio's been around a long time, coming up as a teenager. He's still only 23. Split last year between the minors and the big club with Oakland before coming over in a trade. This is the 0-2 pitch.
Jose started the year in the bullpen. In fact, when Pete Rose and Scott Breeding, the pitching coach, moved him into the starting rotation, he was leading the National League in appearances out of the bullpen. Of course, Mario Soto started the season, then was released. Shoulder didn't come completely back. Dodgers assigned him. Oh, boy.
Boy, he buried him with that, didn't he?
We're talking 90-plus fastball. You know he's got the quick slider. Has not shown the forkball or the circle change yet to these hitters. He is an amazing talent. In fact, you look at these 2 starting rotations, some of their best pitchers have come from the other league. Dennis Martinez, of course, for the Orioles, then had arm problems, other problems. Danny Jackson and Rio, the anchors of this staff right here for Cincinnati. both out of the American League.
Two out, nobody on, and Foley takes a strike. The notion that the National League is clearly the superior one is an old notion that's no longer validated by the facts.
Well, if you base it on all-star games over the last 25 years, you'd say, oh, yeah, National League stronger. If you base it on the last few years of the World Series, you'd say, wait a second, which is more important, winning the big one for the money in the World Series or the all-star game?
And I'm not even basing it on that, because those results could be distorted a little bit. And I'm not saying the American League is better. In the American League, will this be the time that Joe Morgan finally loses? They're trailing at Fenway in the fourth, 5-3 to the White Sox. And at Busch Stadium, where it's probably just as hot as it is here today, if not warmer, Hammaker has the early lead on Forsch. I don't say the American League is better, but I'd say, especially with the influx of young talent the last 3 or 4 years, the American League has at least pulled even. They play a different style, but it's just as good in its own way.
Because of more artificial surface, your bigger ballpark, the premium's more on speed and defense. The DH, smaller ballparks, more emphasis on offense. You use your bullpen more here because you pinch hit more. But the National League is more exciting baseball to watch. You see finer strategy without the DH. Yeah, pitchers look futile sometime, but you see more of a running game. You see better defense because of the premium on speed and artificial surface. I keep wondering, Commissioner Peter Ueberroth keeps saying he has no feelings one way or the other on the DH, and yet he keeps sneaking it in different situations, in all-star games, World Series, various parks.
Treadway with the throw to take care of Foley. Well, if there's one place where it belongs, even if you don't like the DH in general, ought to have it in the All-Star game. Come on.
What would you get if you crossed an Oldsmobile like this with an Oldsmobile like this? You'd get an Oldsmobile that really cooks.
Now, save up to $1,440 on a new specially equipped Cutlass Calais. See your Olds dealer for details today.
The opening of the new movie Caddyshack 2, the Miller Brewing Company held a private screening for the critics.
A sensitive and moving drama. Stimulating on many levels.
Richly rewarding.
Is there any money in it for me? Miller's rewarding movie ticket offer makes Caddyshack 2 a must-see. Look for details wherever Miller High Life, Light, and Genuine Draft are sold, and stock up.
I just love openings.
Now, a revolution in blade shaving from Remington, the new Remington Electro Blade, with vibrating blades for a close, smooth, comfortable shave. Safe, immersible, and cordless. The new Remington Electro Blade vibrating blade system.
Sir, express pack, please. Wendy's new express pack is for people in cars, and you don't have a car.
Well, that means I just wasted $15 on a lube job.
Pick up the express pack. Quarter-pound single with the works. Fries and soft drink at Wendy's.
Unser, Andretti, Mears. Racing so hot it'll bake the Big Apple. Sunday.
Outside the climate-controlled comfort of their own home ballpark north of the border, these Expos players trying as best they can to stay cool.
Is that Pascual Perez behind that? What do you call those things you put on your head like that?
It was a towel.
Yeah, what did you say? That?
O'Neill with a Sasky next.
Well, there's a specific name for that they use in the Sahara Desert.
A turban.
No. Shriners wear those.
A fez. Shriners wear a little fez, and they ride around on those scooters. The 1-1. And how can you say they shouldn't use the DH in the All-Star game? I'm no big DH fan, but in the All-Star game...
How often do pitchers hit in the All-Star game anyway?
Too often.
Play the game right. You're right about this guy, though. He's got 40 RBIs, and O'Neill, and Wasn't a platoon situation with Tracy Jones until Jones was traded to Montreal. Good outfielder. Bryn Smith throws an off-speed pitch inside, so Greg Bonet, I think is the way he wants it pronounced now, not Bonin. Maybe because we're doing Montreal with the French-speaking people listening. But he gave him a lot of the strike zone on that. Bonet did. There's Tracy. All three of the players were traded for Tracy Jones by Murray Cook, the former Montreal GM, are now up with the Cincinnati Reds. Reed, St. Clair came up yesterday, and Winningham.
Winningham, the outfielder, Jeff Reed, the catcher, Randy St. Clair, the pitcher. 1-0 to Osaski. Smith has struck out 3 so far. Breaking ball high. He had elbow problems following his big season in '85 when he went 18-5. Spent a lot of time on the DL and in rehab, trying to make his way back. Bryn Smith is now 32 years old. He was 10-9 last year for the Expos. The 2-1 pitch to Osaski. Fastball inside.
We've been talking about the Expos starting pitching. Over the last 29 ball games, their ERA has been below 2.
Second walk issued by Smith.
I think Buck Rogers, their manager, being a former catcher, has always had an understanding of pitching because he was a catcher. I think Pete Rose is learning. Rogers, of course, played for Bill Rigney. We talked last week about Jim Fregosi, all the influences on his managerial career. Rose has worked his bullpen hard in the past, but I think more and more he's having a grasp of what pitching's all about. It's not just a whack at like he did so well with 4,000+ hits.
Reed is hitting .206 overall, 0 for 8 in a Cincinnati uniform. This one is flared into shallow center field, and it's going to drop for his first Cincinnati hit. Osaski stops at second base.
It'll be a little bit of an adjustment for David Martinez, used to playing most of his outfield on dirt and grass in Wrigley Field. You play a little deep in that ballpark, now with a lot of space behind with this ballpark and when he gets to Montreal, but he has the speed and the throwing arm to be able to play deeply. He broke back on that last ball, Bob, and then couldn't recover.
Here's a remarkable story. Ron Oster. Serious knee injury after a collision last year with Mookie Wilson, as I recall, at second base. They thought his career might be over. He begged for another chance. Months and months of rehab on the injury. Foul down the left field line. Looks like it'll make the seats, and it does. And he was in the minors at the beginning of the year. Brought up only about a week ago, and since then has gone 4 for 10 with 4 walks.
Cincinnati area lad and great old writer Earl Lost used to bring him to the ballpark as a kid. They were neighbors. Fell in love with the Reds. He is playing short today. Concepcion had played some, but he is disabled with a sore shoulder.
Oh, 2. Strike 3 call.
Well, it's 3 called strikeouts for Bryn Smith. 3 have been called out, so he is getting a nice broad strike zone from, at this point, what looks like a pitcher's umpire. And Smith, with his great control, is making the best of it. Santavena sets up inside, and it'll come back fastball. Bonet says it got the inside corner. So perhaps Larry Bernard's message did get through to Smith. Too many fat pitches.
The only official fielding chance in the game for the Expos, the last out in the first, when Wallach threw Eric Davis out. 4 strikeouts, 2 walks, and a single by Jeff Reed otherwise. That's strike 1 to Rios, hitting just .091. He has only 2 hits, but one of them a solo home run off Terry Leach of the Mets his last time out. A chopper to the right side, foul.
You know, Bob, coming out of spring training, a lot was made of the new strike zone written in the book about the higher strike. You get differing opinions from hitters and pitchers as to whether that pitch is being called. Most decided is not being called. What everybody is saying this year, though, pitchers and hitters, they are calling a wider strike zone. And that is one of the reasons, aside from that baseball, which is better this year, why it is more of a pitcher's year. I mean, could be a bunch of guys could come up with 20-game seasons this year. They were hard to find last year.
0-2, just missed. You know, coming over from the American League, Rio had never had a bat in his hands, and he was really struggling his first several turns at the plate. He went something like 0 for his first 20. In the game in which he had the homer off Leach, he also had his first major league hit, a single earlier, against Ron Darling. So maybe he's getting the hang of it, but not just yet.
4 of those strikeouts called for Smith.
Got him on the curveball for his 5th strikeout overall, and we'll be back after these messages from your local station.
What's spookier than being in a haunted house?
You scared, or do you have to go potty?
Being trapped there with a killer.
Did you hear that? No!
Hunter tonight.
Any good lawnmower will start quickly, so don't be taken in by fast-starting claims. With Snapper, starting's a snap. Snapper has built a worldwide reputation for maximum performance with a minimum of service. For a promise that goes beyond starting, look to Snapper. Their leadership in making the best products you can buy is second to none. Guaranteed.
Hagedorn & Sons, Erlanger, Kentucky. John Ralph Mower Service, Delhi. Bramble Mower Service, East Hyde Park.
Hello, I'm Roger Stapleton. I'd like to welcome you to the Cincy Shops. We handle all Major League sports.
Stop into Cincy Shops today for $10 off all official champion baseball jackets.
We'd like you to shop our Cincy Shops. 3 locations: Tri-County Mall, Swifton Commons, and Fountain Square downtown.
Cincinnati's best used car deal.
We're very upfront with our customers. We're the only car business I know of that offers complete maintenance records on all of ours. Every car on a Hertz lot has a low fixed price posted on it that includes all of the options. Hertz stands behind every month and mile with our free 12-month, 12,000-mile limited powertrain warranty that proves we stand behind every sale. We're a quality company, and we sell only quality cars.
Hertz Car Sales in Cincinnati at Coleraine and Galbraith. World Wrestling Federation action tonight at 7.
Davey Concepcion on Pete Rose's bench. There's the reliever John Franco crossing in front of him. Franco saved the game for Danny Jackson with a strong 9th inning last night. And he's really come on. Speaking of Franco, he's got 18 saves, second by only 1 in the league to Todd Worrell of the Cardinals. And Franco has saved 8 of the last 9 games the Reds have won.
Franco likes the idea that the Reds are in a 4-man rotation now. He feels he gets more opportunities.
Pete went to that in early July, and so unless there's a rainout or an off day, Danny Jackson, Tom Browning, today's starter Jose Rio, and young Jack Armstrong all pitch on 3 days rest, which is somewhat unusual these days.
And when they have a doubleheader, I believe, against Atlanta coming up next week, Tim Burtsis, who's in the bullpen today, will go into the starting rotation. Salvania's got some big base hits for this ball club. Cuban-born.
A ball and a strike to him.
That's what Buck Rogers wants. He feels, as you said earlier, he wants a catcher, and he lets him call his entire game himself, who will be a defensive player first, and if the hitting comes, fine. But that's not unusual. Earl Weaver, with those great teams that he had defensive catchers. It was Etzer Barron or Hendricks.
Rio's 2-1 pitch. By the way, apparently the Red Sox did something in their half of the fourth inning at Fenway. They're 9-0 under Joe Morgan, who came out on top in an official sense in the confrontation with Jim Rice, because the next day the front office suspended Jimmy for 3 days. And apparently the Red Sox have rallied again. We're going to get an update on that game in just a minute. 2-2. Got him. Second strikeout for Rio, who's retired of the first 7. Here's Marv.
Thank you, Bob. And at Fenway, they're now bottom of the 5th, and the Red Sox have come from behind. They lead the White Sox 7-5. This is the key play off the base hit by Jody Reed. Here comes Dwight Evans off the throw. It is dropped by Mark Salas. Evans scores. So new Red Sox manager Joe Morgan with a 9-game win streak on the line, and the Red Sox taking the lead. Back to Bob and Tony.
Thanks, Marv. This is Rex Hudler taking high from Rio. The 2 strikeouts Rio has recorded. Wallach in the second and Santovenia to begin the third, both on blistering fastballs. Up in the strike zone, and when you throw it that hard and it has a little movement on it, that's when you can afford to pitch high. Like that. Most pitchers just can't do that.
There are very few can reach back when they're throwing in the low 90s, and you say, well, that's it, about as hard as he can throw. Who can reach back a little more and do what he just did? On a 2-0 count, he said, okay, let me try for 95 on the scale. He probably came close to hitting it. He's become much more of a pitcher now than his first 2 shots with the Yankees in Oakland. There he just went with the seams and sunk the fastball or tailed it. It wasn't the riding, four-seam fastball. He reminds me, his delivery, not at all of Marichal, which you mentioned, but of Joaquin Andujar. A similar delivery.
Yeah, I can see it. A breaking ball, and Hudler got a little piece of it.
He's obviously gifted with a good arm, but the mechanics of his delivery are so sound. Poses back on that right leg, the position Tom Severall, who's talked about gathering or getting it together. Good lower body action where he doesn't throw off a stiff front leg. The kind of delivery that looks like it was sustained. Take a lot of the strain off his arm.
Another 2-2 pitch. And Hudler hangs in there. Of course, nobody, at least in recent memory, had a windup and delivery like Marichal, with that left leg, the lead leg, almost touching his glove as he kicked it so high in the air. Another strikeout. That's his third.
That looked like the forkball. And he throws a true forkball. It's not the split finger, which can be thrown a lot harder like Mike Scott, some of the others. Neil uses his changeup and that tremendous tumbling action. I mean, that pitch is devastating enough on its own when you're throwing 90+ in the fastball and got a slider you can throw whenever you want it, wherever you want it. Not about the complete pitcher right here.
And Smith gets the first base hit off of it. He had retired the first 8, and Smith, who was just 2 for 32, lines him to center and has to crack a smile a little bit as he arrives at first base and talks it over with Bobby Winkles.
Bobby Winkles, who used to be the hitting instructor, now the infield instructor, who just out touch a couple years ago, Bren. Smith's got a pretty good swing. There's Bobby, great college coach, manager of the major leagues. Buck Rogers wanted him back and all but talked him into staying in Montreal.
Otis Nixon.
When a guy is throwing that hard, that is what you will see. A lot of checked swings because you're starting the bat so early. Checked swings, foul balls. He's loosened up. He wasn't quite that loose in the first and second inning, but he's throwing a lot harder now.
This heat will do it to you. And there's a breaking pitch of some kind, and it's 0-2.
Well, he doesn't throw a curveball, so that was his hard slider. You know, a little bit like Jose De Leon. Now with the Cardinals, you almost every time he goes out to the mound, Rio, you say he's got no-hit stuff. That's the pitch his father-in-law, Juan Marichal, did not want him to mess around. He said, what are you doing wasting a pitch with 2 strikes? He said, finish the hitters off, bury him. Don't let him see any pitches. Conserve your energy and your pitch number.
Goodbye. Bryn Smith struck out the side against the Reds in the bottom of the 2nd. Rio does the same with a Smith single mixed in the top of the 3rd.
I was known as a smart football player. And even now, when I'm enjoying a great tasting Miller Lite, I use my head.
Well, how's that, Gary?
For great taste, there's only one light beer, Miller Lite.
Chevy S10 invites you to own the street with the biggest engine ever offered in a compact pickup. The most V6 power and torque available in a compact truck. And a price to make your heart beat faster than ever.
The heartbeat of America. That's today's Chevy truck.
Somehow there's got to be a cure for athlete's foot.
Hey, step up to the mic.
Mike?
Micatin. This cures athlete's foot. It's got something the others don't. Miconazole. There's nothing more powerful.
Yes? You got something that cures athlete's foot?
Sure, step up to the mic.
Huh?
Micatin. It cures athlete's foot.
Step up to the cure. Step up to the mic. Micatin, also in deodorant spray.
Quaker State with QSX. How do you make a motor oil this good? You test it in the lab. You test it under the hood. You test it on the track.
Quaker State quality. We don't just talk about it, we live by it.
The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. Want to make your pulse race? Come see the Quaker State Porsche race in the Quaker State 500 at Pocono Raceway, Sunday, August 21st. Call 1-800-RACEWAY.
Scott Emerson once had a heart attack. Today, he had a son. Studies show aspirin can help prevent a second heart attack. Ask your doctor about a regimen of exercise, the right foods, and Bayer, the wonder drug that works wonders.
For the Reds, it's the top of the order in the bottom of the 3rd. We already have 9 strikeouts, 5 by Bryn Smith, 4 by Jose Rio.
I think more and more this year of the pitchers that pitchers are not throwing as much to the hitters as they are throwing to the umpires, and which umpires will give them the corners or more of the outside part of the plate. And Greg, the home plate umpire, Bonet, seems to be doing it today.
Daniels takes ball 1, so I've got to get used to Greg Bonet now. Huh?
That's what I heard, yeah.
It does have a certain ring to it, continental sound.
With your French background coming out of Syracuse U, you ought to be able to handle it.
Naturellement.
Been a rough year for umpires, and of course the late Lee Wire, a wonderful man, passing away recently. Now Eric Gregg, and Doug Harvey and the crew send their best to Eric, who apparently has been hospitalized with a little high blood pressure. We wish him the best. On ball.
Galarraga makes a great play, and they get him with Smith covering.
Well, there are writers from Venezuela who are covering Galarraga as he travels around the states and in his home park at Olympic Stadium, Montreal, saying to everyone, whom does he remind you of? And it's been Gil Hodges. It's been a lot of other people. The best I've ever seen right-handed, if not Hodges, he was great, was Vic Power. And some say Cepeda. No, this guy's a better fielder than Cepeda was. Ferris Frayne was great. He was left-handed. Mattingly's outstanding. Currently, I think you'd have to say Ken Herbeck, but Herbeck is healthy.
Is Galarraga the best now in the National League? Has he surpassed Keith Hernandez?
Well, no. Keith Hernandez is already, I mean, there's more than catching the ball. And this guy catches the ball with Keith, but Keith has the advantage of being a left-handed thrower to start at 3-6-3 or 3-6-1. Get the lead runner at 3rd or 2nd on the bunt. But Hernandez adds the leadership quality. He's like a manager, second pitching coach on the field. And that's why the Mets are doing what they're doing. With him out of the lineup, struggling.
A chopper over Smith. Here comes Wallach behind the mound, showing good range to throw him out.
But they call Galarraga El Gran Gato, the big cat, because of his quickness. And you look at the corners of this, you got to start going Wallach and Galarraga. You got to start thinking about Gaetti and Herbeck in the other league and what the exhibition they put on for us, the League Championship Series, Bob. Gaetti having a bigger year with the bat this year than Wallach.
You mentioned Hernandez's absence. The Mets did win 2 last night at home from the Braves, but whether it's entirely tied to Keith's injury or not, almost coincidental with his departure, they've played around 500 baseball when they were tearing the league apart.
Oh, there's no question that Dave Magadan's going to hit. I mean, he's going to hit, and I think he's going to be a decent first baseman if he ends up there. There's the pound ball again. You can see that tumbling action, a real field pitch. The last thing it leaves are the fingertips of his hand. You call it a dead fish. Comes up there and just flops right on top of home plate sometimes.
2-1. Sabo at the plate, among the league leaders in 8 different significant offensive categories. Out of play.
Reds have had just 1 ball at the infield. That was Reed's base hit to center field.
Sabo is the league leader in doubles. He's got 33 of them. Batting .301 with 11 home runs. Had a walk his first time up. Another chance for Wallach. With the help of a great play to start the inning by Galarraga, Smith cruises through the 3rd. 1-2-3. Here's a look back at a very special Olympic moment.
An Olympic moment brought to you by the Prudential, going above and beyond to meet your needs in insurance and other financial services.
Melbourne, 1956. Chris Brasher of Great Britain is all alone at the finish of the Olympic 3,000-meter steeplechase. He wins, but there is a dispute. Brasher is disqualified for bumping another runner. After an appeal, the judges reverse the decision. Chris Brasher will finally be awarded the Olympic gold medal.
We go above and beyond, just like you, above and beyond what we have to do, caring for what's special to you.
I'm a Prudential representative. When I speak to people about car insurance, I offer them an exclusive Pru review to get them the best coverage possible.
Taking care to protect what's important to you. The Rock, the Prudential, above and beyond.
This is change, this is new. Howard Johnson, can this be you? This is Howard Johnson today. This is Howard Johnson today. This is Howard Johnson today. Changing in so many colorful, comfortable, welcoming ways.
Stay at Howard Johnson this summer. You could win up to $50,000 cash.
This is Howard Johnson today.
An American tradition continues. In 1956, he hit 43 home runs and led Brooklyn's beloved Bums to their 2nd consecutive pennant. Edwin Snyder was the Duke of Ebbets Field. Now, Kirk Gibson powers the first-place Dodgers as they host the Houston Astros. The tradition is here. The memories are waiting.
No score as we move to the 4th. Each team with 1 base hit. Rio dueling Bryn Smith. David Martinez, Andres Galarraga, and Hubie Brooks for the Expos.
With Sabo and Isaski tight at the corners in case Martinez tries to bunt. There's the defense shading him slightly toward left field.
One and one. Our stat man, Steve Horn, worked up an interesting figure on Jose Rio. He had always had trouble with his control, a wild, hard thrower in Oakland. When he started out here in Cincinnati in the bullpen, that problem continued. Fouled out of play as a reliever for Pete Rose, and that takes in quite a few appearances before they moved him into the rotation. He was walking better than 5 per 9 innings pitched. As a starter, he's under 3 walks per 9. And that's really been the key. 11-4 overall now.
And the strikeout to innings pitch ratio, since he's been a starter, is 9 starts. He's over 1 per inning pitched, almost 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. Scott Creedon, the pitching coach, who's done a marvelous job. A very low-key guy. He'll take what a pitcher has, won't teach him anything new unless the guy's really struggling. Good on teaching off-speed pitches, change-ups. He's got Rob Murphy and Franco both working on that circle change, a pitch that Rio has really refined now. It's almost like a screwball. Sometimes you wonder, you almost think that the guys who weren't big name pitchers because they had to work harder become better pitching coaches.
I think another possible explanation, especially in modern baseball, if a guy was a great pitcher, he made so much money that he doesn't stay in the game, making the relatively low salary of a coach.
Pitch counter in his left hand, not necessarily the indicator whether or not Rio will tire. But more times the counter pitcher will still go by feel and what the pitcher and catcher tell him. Is the stuff still alive?
Full count now to Martinez, leading off in the 4th. Rio hasn't walked anybody yet. There goes the bat, but the ball is in Reed's glove. It's the 5th strikeout for Rio.
It was either a hard slider or a hard fork ball, and immediately the bat is called foul by the home plate umpire, or the first base umpire, Bob Davidson. You can only sit on one pitch, especially with that count, and that's the fastball. And what does he throw? Looked like a forkball. It's not the background here, folks. This is a pretty good background to hit off. Black, and you're not throwing out of the seat. The stuff of Rio and the great palm ball so far of Bryn Smith and his control.
Galarraga began the day at 327, 5 points back of Gerald Perry of Atlanta. Perry's the league leader.
Galarraga stands way off the plate with that closed stance, similar to Orlando Cepeda, but he says he really patterned himself off Tony Perez of the Reds. And the way they've been getting him out lately is they expand his strike zone. They pitch him away, and then they go farther away because he thinks he can hit the ball hard to the opposite field. They say, okay, we'll go out of the strike zone way outside. He'll go after it.
Galarraga lost a point when he flied to right in the 1st, so he's sitting at 326 now. 3-1.
Talking to 3-0 slider. Know he had the green light. Number 3 hitter. Starting to get hot again.
And he walked him. You know, when Galarraga was first scouted near Caracas, as I recall, by Felipe Alou, Alou said, you know, he has good baseball actions, but the kid is so fat. Refrigerator Perry hadn't burst on the scene yet, but I guess if he were already in Felipe's frame of reference, he would have said he's a baseball refrigerator. He's just so terribly out of shape. His body is awful. I can't really see signing him. And they went after him for only a $1,000 bonus. And although he's still kind of chunky, he's certainly trimmed off a lot of that weight. And he's very, very nimble despite his size.
So Reed going to go out to Rio now and maybe try and get him back within himself and not to overthrow. Right, I talked to Jackie Moore, their third base coach, and said, you know, you got Raines, you got Nixon, you got a lot of the speed. Boston 9-5, bottom of the 5th. They just keep going into Joe Markham. But Jackie Moore, when I asked him who's your best base runner, not base stealer, he said, let me think. He said, yeah, really, it's Andres Galarraga. He reacts perfectly to every situation, rarely uses a coach, gets a quick start, knows all the outfielders' arm, where they're playing before the ball's hit. So you're talking about a complete player right there, the way he handles the glove.
One out, one on, and a 1-1 pitch to Hubie Brooks. Don't look now, but the Red Sox are 3.5 behind Detroit. The Yankees are in between a game out, but The Red Sox management reasoned correctly that they still had a chance to get into the race, and they made the move at the All-Star break, and bingo, it's paid off in spades.
Mike Smithson has given them some good outings, and Hurst is gone, perhaps with mononucleosis. Boyd gave him a great outing the other day. Gardner.
Here's the throw down to second, and Galarraga is safe.
There are varying theories on how to make a tag at second base. Some say the swipe tag, which was just tried by Treadway. I like what Cal Ripken does. Ripken will take the ball, hold it down in the bag, and then after the hard slide, he keeps it on the leg of the player. So in case they go off, now Treadway does, he keeps it on the back in case he goes off the bag, and Doug Harvey at second base is watching in case he pushes him off or he goes off, but he holds the foot on the bag. Cal Ripken's gotten a couple guys this year when they pop up and they leave the bag with their momentum. Oh my, is he throwing hard. Oh.
That's his 6th strikeout. 5 of them in the last 2 innings. He struck out the side in the 3rd. And he struck out 2 of the 3 hitters he's faced here in the 4th.
The ball's out of the strike zone. Greg Bonet doesn't even look to anybody at first base. He said, you went too far. Which I think more home plate umpires should do. Instead of always asking somebody on the bases, call it yourself, and more decisively, and he did.
Now Tim Wallach will try his luck against Rio. Tim was a strikeout victim in the 2nd inning.
Some umpires like to pass the buck on that call.
In the air to center field, Eric Davis lopes back. Puts it away easily. No runs, no hits, a man left to the bottom of the 4th. No score.
Downtown, 2:30 a.m. Empty city, empty streets. At times like this, you really appreciate how good Mr. Goodwrench is. He has the high-tech electronic equipment to analyze and adjust your high-tech General Motors car so you can drive with confidence anytime, anywhere. Mr. Goodwrench, no one knows your GM car better. No one.
In Matilda Bay, only one thing livens up a dull night at the movies.
Coming soon, Skippy 4. This time he's hopping mad. Seat Wars. And now Matilda Bay Cooler is in the lobby.
It's a different kind of cooler. Sensationally smooth, exotically refreshing, wildly unique. Try original fruit and new special dry. Now made in the States.
Tonight's feature, Pause.
Take your taste away from the everyday.
Listen to the heartbeat
Chevrolet Corsica LT.
of America.
Now you can enjoy sleeker aerodynamics in a Porsche 928S, a taut F41 sport suspension, electronic fuel injection, all for a price that lets you indulge yourself without denying your responsibilities.
The heartbeat of America.
Corsica LT.
That's today's Chevrolet.
It? That's all? You gotta be kidding.
You're done. You sure? If you thought dental cleanings were easy with Tartar Control Crest,
Can't believe it.
they just got easier. Boy, that was fast. Introducing new and improved Tartar Control Crest.
You're all done? No.
The new tartar fighting formula can actually help stop tartar before it starts. Piece of cake. Tartar Control Crest, the dentist's choice, is now harder on tartar and easier on you. Thank you very much.
Last of the 4th, Eric Davis to the plate. Lifts one down the left field line. And leaping up, and let's see if he got it. Is there a ball in that glove? No, there's a glove in the stands, and the ball was caught. No.
The third base umpire was down there, Jerry Crawford, in the event there was fan interference. If somebody reached out and interfered, and some of the fans did reach out into the playing field.
But you know what happened?
Otis Nixon really wasn't sure. I think was not sure he had it or not.
Nixon caught the ball, but it was Hudler, the shortstop, I believe, who lost his glove. Watch, Wallach is there. Nixon jumps up and catches it, and there goes Hudler's glove.
That's a pretty good play right there by Nixon. And it's nice to retire Eric Davis leading off an inning anytime with that great base stealing speed. He's stolen 22 in a row. Hadn't been caught since the third day of the season, but especially on a good play by Nixon right there to set Davis down.
Paul O'Neill hitting out of that widespread, slightly open stance. Chops one down to second base, and Foley throws him out. Atlanta gets 2 off the Mets' Bob Ojeda in the first. That Smoltz is a young right-hander, John Smoltz, picked up in the trade that sent Doyle Alexander to the Tigers. Now, Alexander helped the Tigers win the division last year, and he's pitching very well for them this year. It was what a contending team needed.
Bobby Cox, the new GM, really had his eye on Smoltz when he gave Alexander up, and they've got a lot of good young pitchers now with that ball club. Look at left-hander Tommy Glavine, Pete Smith, the right-hander. They've got some kids, Lilliquist and that, about ready to come. It's going to be a couple of years, but they've got some good arms. So Bobby Cox is trying to rebuild that franchise.
2 out, nobody on, and Saski gets a little piece of that one. He's behind 0-2. So Cox, trying to make the most of a very bad situation in Atlanta, knew that he had to get prospects for the few marketable veterans he had on the roster, and apparently made a deal that was good for him and also good for the Tigers in the Alexander swap.
Well, did last year was win the Eastern Division, 9-0.
Skied back at first. Galarraga shades his eyes, and near the bullpen mound, he puts it away.
It's a good idea of how fastballs are relative. They're looking for the palm ball. He sneaks the fastball by him.
And we'll be back after these messages from your local station.
Sunday, Mark Harmon.
Ted Bundy is the most compassionate, caring person.
What they didn't know.
Where's he going to strike next?
The Deliberate Stranger, Sunday.
Yeah, I'm a big star. First one you've seen tonight, right? Sure. Light years up here. But hey, you can talk to me. I mean, I'm your lucky star. Stick with me and you could win big in the new instant lottery, Lucky Stars. Yeah, you and about 10 million other lucky stiffs. That's right. 10 million winning tickets are out there. So, hey, you want to wish upon a star, pal? Hey, go right ahead. Me, hey, I'd go for the cash. Yeah. So bright. Woo! Yeah.
Nissan hard-body trucks are put together the way truck people want a truck put together. And now Nissan has put something else together. Hard-body trucks and cash. For a limited time, you can get up to $700 cash back on hard-body trucks. Two-wheel drives, four-wheel drives, long beds, king cabs, the works. So if you're looking for a tough truck, now's the time to get yourself a hard-body and a fistful of dollars.
You're looking down the barrel of the biggest news in beer since they put it in cans. Say hello to new Extra Gold Draft. A full tilt taste with something extra that only one great draft beer can deliver. If you like to drink beer, I mean really like to drink beer, this one's gonna turn your head around. The name is Extra Gold Draft. It's the biggest taste that's happened to beer since they put it in cans.
Join us for all the scores and more tonight at 6 o'clock.
Pretty soon, if Chris Sabo remains all the rage in Cincinnati, those blonde locks may have to be trimmed into a flat top. All the kids are going to want the Sabo look. He says that in this day of hairstylists rather than barbers, all he needs is a $4 flat top.
You draw a crowd and an autograph session around the dugout before the game. There's been 500 kids down there. And he tried to oblige every one of them.
In Cincinnati, those blonde locks may have to be trimmed into a flat top. All the kids are going to want the Sabo look. He says that in this day of hairstylists rather than barbers, all he needs is a $4 flat top.
You draw a crowd and an autograph session around the dugout before the game. There's been 500 kids down there. And he tried to oblige every one of them. Foley's been in a platoon situation at second base. He's a former Red player. He's been hitting very well. The number of hits he's got, just about 50. He's got 24 RBIs. Is this guy throwing some smoke? I mean, that last pitch was just right by Foley.
Foley trying to get his bearings, behind in the count 0-2.
See if Rio listens to his father-in-law. Finish hitters off 0-2 and don't dawdle around. I like what Rio, I said, what did he tell you? He said, invent something. I said, what? He said, yeah, come up with a new pitch they never saw before and throw it somewhere near. They'll swing at it with 0-2. Rio said, I've been trying to figure that one out.
Line to center. Davis comes in and takes it. Well, of course, Marichal had about 8 or 9 different pitches off a variety of speeds that he could throw consistently for a strike. So maybe that statement wasn't so absurd where he was concerned. This telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball. May not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball.
You probably never saw Marichal pitch in person. I'm sure you saw him on the tape. Did you ever see him in person?
From the stands.
Oh, yeah. A control like that is just unheard of.
When the Mets first came into the league, they played in the old Polo Grounds for a couple of years and then Shea Stadium. And as a youngster growing up in the New York area, the tickets we always wanted most for Met home games were when the Dodgers and Giants came to visit. Saw Marichal pitch many times.
It was a great matchup. Marichal against either Drysdale or Koufax, and you get Marichal against Gibson, and you could see they always talk about hitting in the DH, bringing in more people, but people look at pitching matchups, and that's when they show up at the ballpark when the star pitchers are in their regular rotation. And Rio seems to like going with 3 days rest, and you've got to have 4 guys who are able to do it, as Pete Rose apparently has at this point.
Yeah, Tony, I saw Marichal from the stands as opposed to batting against him. I'm sure my view was more comfortable than yours. 2-1. Santovenia struck out his only time up. He might have broken his bat. He took a look to check, and apparently the lumber is okay.
Montreal had won 8 in a row and were right back in the pennant race. And all of a sudden, as you said earlier, the All-Star break hit them, and they've been a little sluggish with the bats. The Reds, about just before the middle of June, were 4 games back. The Dodgers, and they went in a tailspin. In fact, we saw them a couple of weeks ago, and they were playing some shoddy defense against the Philadelphia Phillies. It's Tommy Helms, the bench coach for Pete Rose, one of his former teammates, sitting in the foreground of your screen.
When Pete was suspended for a month, it was Helms who managed the club to right around a 500 record in Pete's absence. Goodbye. That's strikeout number 7. Santovenia has fanned both times.
Don't know what. Well, they're using the faster gun, the Jugs gun, which picks the ball up out of the pitcher's hand. The Decatur, I guess that's the one most of the patrols use in most states, picks it up as it crosses the plate. They say the Jugs gun, and again, scouts talking, the weather factors and sand and dirt obstructions can affect its readings. The Decatur, some feel, might be more accurate, but that's the scouts' opinions.
Hudler with 2 out and nobody on. Pops it up on the infield. It's Sabo who wants it. The one thing for sure that affects the radar guns, big umpires. When Ken Kaiser or John McSherry have worked the plate, they're so big, sometimes the gun can't get through them. We'll be right back.
Chevy S10 invites you to own the street with the biggest engine ever offered in a compact pickup. The most V6 power and torque available in a compact truck. And a price to make your heart beat faster than ever.
The heartbeat of America. That's today's Chevy truck.
Okay, so you love your car. Whoa. You're not going inside yet. The tires, the 4 round things underneath. There you go. Now, see that armor all protected? Wipe some of that stuff on the tires and bumpers. Okay, now get in the car and do the dash and the seats. You can do this. I mean, this is not rocket science. Now, look at your car. Now go in the house and tell them how hard you worked. Go ahead. They don't know about armor all. They'll buy it.
Speeding in fluids and minerals, supplying energy to working muscles. Nothing cuts through your thirst like Gatorade.
The problem with foreign oil is that the price and supply goes up and down. To get off this roller coaster, America can use its own coal and nuclear energy. America can count on coal and nuclear energy.
In every town in America, there's always one place that does a little bit better job of fixing your car. And it seems the things they all have in common are great mechanics, great service, and Napa parts.
A legend has been created. A better battery for the future. Better with more reserve power. Better with a warranty that lasts over 6 years. Better with a special $10 rebate available right now. The legend from Napa. A better battery.
Bruce Kim is the Reds coach at third, and Lee May, well over 300 lifetime homers, mans the lines at first.
Lee May's son, a great-looking prospect, right-handed hitter with some speed, playing at Glen Falls, and he's been calling Daddy, saying, "Daddy, I'm struggling." And he said, "You seen some curveballs, huh?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "You get used to them." Bruce Kim at third almost had an unusual thing last night in the first inning. Almost had two players thrown at home plate in the first inning. The same play. Except Rivera made a late throw to home plate on the second one. They didn't get him.
Reed lost one down the right field line. It's a long run for Brooks. He got there. A sliding catch by Hubie Brooks, and it was a fair ball when he caught it. He slid into foul ground, but it could have been big trouble. He robs him of an extra base hit.
They were playing Reed as the turf just tears the uniform out of his left knee. He'll have a pretty good burn there from that turf. But they were playing him over toward left field. Looked like Bryn Smith gave him an off-speed pitch, and you can see that Hubie tried to find the warning track, battling a little bit of the sun, and that's about the only way he can make that play. And it is a great one. If he tries to run through it, he runs right through the wall or to the wall anyway. It's an outstanding play. So each left and right fielder, Nixon and now Brooks, have made big plays on the leadoff hitters in the inning.
A ball to Oster. A duel here between players who had to battle back with their careers in jeopardy. Oster a serious knee injury a year ago. Smith with the elbow problems 2 years back.
Blood seeping through already, can't you? I think this is relatively new turf. This is the first year of the turf that they put in. Drain through turf where you don't even need a Zamboni. It just drains right through and you can go on to the game even after hard rains. The problems come in when you get an old turf and you get seams that start lifting up, and you can really tear yourself up when you dive. Pennsylvania could probably catch Bryn Smith in a rocking chair today. I mean, he puts the sign down, puts the glove down, and Smith's near it all the time. There it was right there. Set up a little bit outside. It's been a trouble spot for Buck Rogers over the last few years, trying to find a catcher. Fitzgerald was hurt. Now he's back. They gave up Jeff Reed. And Pennsylvania's caught almost 40 games now, and it's really been instrumental in helping settle his pitching staff down.
The 2-2 pitch to Oster. Struck him out. The 6th strikeout on the palm ball.
It's a pitch that is not thrown a whole lot these days. So many more have gone to that circle change or the forkball split finger. Dave Justy threw him. He was an outstanding relief pitcher for Pittsburgh. Quite a few good years for them.
Rio makes contact. Here comes Hubie Brooks in from right field, and it's going to be Hubie in foul ground who makes the catch. So he both starts and ends the inning with putouts, and he's much the worse for wear, as you can see, at least his uniform is. Here's another edition of Characters of the Game.
Characters of the Game. Brought to you by A&W. Sit back and try yourself an A&W root beer or cream soda. He's in a different line of work today, but back in 1980, Joe Charbonneau was the American League Rookie of the Year and one of baseball's most colorful characters. Hey, Joe, let's show your friends an interview you did back when you were known as Super Joe and you had your own punk rock single.
You can do your bar aerobics to this song. It's a punk rock record, and I'm a punk rock baseball player. I gotta hide here. One day I was sitting with some friends, we were talking. They were telling me all kinds of crazy stuff they could do in the minor leagues, and I said, well, I can drink beer through my nose.
Super Joe Charbonneau, still taking curtain calls, and still a character of the game.
There are 3 good reasons to try A&W root beer. 1, it's rich, creamy, and delicious. 2, a frosty mug of A&W is a real change of pace from the usual boring soft drinks. 3, you don't buy A&W root beer, I may have to go back to my previous occupation. Pig catching don't pay half as good as advertising. Next time, try yourself an A&W.
As soon as you get out there, call Mike Butler at the Century 21 office.
Well, he already called me, Dad.
Check the utility bills.
I will, Dad.
You know the right mortgage.
Dad, isn't this guy Butler a friend of yours?
Yeah, sure.
If he's half the guy you are, I bet I can trust him.
Take care of yourself.
Put your trust in #1.
Write your mother.
Century 21.
Once again, we remind you, we'll select the NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game when it's all over. And in this old-fashioned pitcher's duel, obviously Rio and Smith are the leading candidates. Each has allowed just 1 hit through 5. And Smith is the leadoff batter. He has the only base hit off Rio. Hit the ball fairly hard into center field in the 3rd inning. The only hit Smith has allowed is a bloop single by the Reds catcher, the former Expo Jeff Reed.
Jim Smith has set down 11 Reds in a row now.
And that's a strike.
He's not going to toy with the fastball first pitch this time, is he? That's what Bryn Smith jumped all over Rio. So well, I'll just throw fastball, first pitch, try and get a strike, and Smith's in wacko.
Rio's receiver today, Jeff Reed, possibly a hidden key in the recent trade between these clubs. Tracy Jones, the muscular right-handed hitter, and the promising young pitcher, Pat Pasillo, went from Cincinnati to Montreal. 2-1. And the Reds got Reed along with the outfielder Herm Winningham and the pitcher Randy St. Clair. When you consider the age of Bo Diaz and the fact that the backups, McClendon and McGriff, are not really good defensive catchers, you know why Pete Rose and the folks in the front office wanted another receiver.
He showed him 1 fastball that series in 4 pitches, and it was way out of the strike zone. The rest were breaking balls. Bryn Smith wanted to go back to the dugout, didn't he? He didn't want to hit. He started back like he was out.
And now bunts with 2 strikes. Rio was falling the wrong way off the mound, but he recovers and gets him.
They were kind of on him in the Cincinnati dugout, and he put his hands out and said, hey, maybe I'll try something. Off this guy, the way he throws the ball, he's just burying people. Montreal with a new and interesting general manager. Got the job, and Murray Cook came over here, had that job, and then Bill Stoneman, the former pitcher for Montreal, had the job, and he was let go. Dave Dombrowski 31 years old, spent most of his time in Raleigh Heeman with the White Sox. He's the new general manager. There's 6, at least that I can count, 6 Montreal Expos players who are older than Dave Dombrowski, the general manager. Thought I'd just throw an interesting tidbit in that I know you'd like it, Bob. And good comeback for it.
It was interesting.
The GM.
He and Andy McPhail, I think, are the only front office people that I'm older than.
You say 35 every year. I've heard young and up and coming for you at the same age for at least 7 years around here.
Oh, 2 to Nixon. On 3 pitches, he's finished. That's the 8th strikeout for Rio.
I mean, this is just no contest. The way Rio's throwing. I mean, a fastball to Nixon, 0-2, was in the glove of Reed before he even could pull the trigger. And he has shown, he's gotten behind a few hitters, but he's shown some signs of control. And you can see Reed sets up on the outside corner. He comes out of the strike zone outside, all but hits the target. So he's become a lot more of a pitcher now.
And a strike to David Martinez. Not only is Greg Bonet, that's our new pronunciation, giving the pitchers the width of the plate, he's also calling higher strikes than you sometimes see called. He's calling that strike in the vicinity of the letters, not that one, but the pitch before.
I don't think there's any question, not just looking at this game that we've seen so far from that center field camera, that umpires subconsciously, in other words, just felt so sorry for pitchers last year when there were 6 teams at 200 or more home runs and just such a great offensive year with that baseball, that they've changed their strike zone and favored pitchers more this year. I mean, so much has been taken away from pitchers down through the years, the lowering of the rubber and the discernible stop ball call this year, and get thrown out if you come close without any warnings, and on and on and on, and the batting helmet for that false sense of security hitters have. They need a little bit of a break.
Woo! About the time Martinez pulled the trigger on the swing, the ball was nestled in Reed's glove. It's strikeout number 9. He's humming.
We can help you make money. We can help you enter new markets and have a presence. We can help you become a major player in some type of environment. You have the idea. You start it. We'll help you finish it. Obviously, if you're starting a new business, there's something that you think you have to offer. But just having the better mousetrap doesn't necessarily give you market share. You have to understand, how do I take this great idea, how do I target it, how do I get to those folks that can probably and that want to buy, and how do I sort through of all the people that are out there, of all the companies that are out there for my product and service, which is going to be my #1 target group. We can help you do that. We work with just hundreds of clients annually, and I'm sure we've worked with people in the industry that you're going in, and that would allow you to understand what works, what doesn't work, to get to that market share. What's it going to get you? Money. Isn't that what it's kind of all about in starting up a new business?
Sir, express pack, please. Wendy's new express pack is for people in cars, and you don't have a car.
Well, that means I just wasted $15 on a lube job.
Pick up the express pack. Quarter-pound single with the works. Fries and soft drink at Wendy's.
It's harvest time in Matilda Bay. Time to gather the smooth refresher. Matilda Bay Original Fruit Cooler. A new special dry. Now you can pick and choose.
We go above and beyond just like you. Above and beyond what we have to do.
I'm a Prudential representative, and I help people review their life insurance needs because I know how much the right life insurance means to me and my family.
You take pride in your life, so do we. Going above and beyond is our policy. The Rock, the Prudential, above and beyond.
Before radar guns, timing pitchers, super scouts used to look at the reactions of hitters to see how hard a guy was throwing. And you can see by Martinez, knowing how hard Rio's throwing, trying to get the bat out, the front shoulder flies open first to get the barrel out, and that actually slows your bat down. But he was trying to get the barrel out to catch up with that 90-plus fastball from Rio. good scouts don't need stopwatches to see if the guy can run fast or radar guns, see if he's throwing hard. They watch how the players react.
That was the kind of pitch I heard one player refer to as a Linda Ronstadt.
Well, you did. Why?
Because it blew by you.
Oh.
When you were playing, it would have been a Roy Orbison. He had the first hit on it. Hubie Brooks got himself some new trousers after ripping up the left leg of the first pair, making a sliding catch back in the last of the fifth. Hit hard and caught at shortstop by Hudler.
And perhaps more in tune with Linda Ronstadt's recent really kind of jazz renditions.
So you are a Linda Ronstadt fan then?
Yep.
With that new...
Very versatile. She's
yes.
done opera, jazz, to
Nelson
blues,
Riddle,
to
yep.
pop.
Nelson Riddle stuff and the Mexican-influenced tunes. And so much for the musical portion of the program. Strike one to Treadway.
We're just seeing a marvelous pitchers do it right here, folks. Bryn Smith and Jose Rio, two different styles of pitchers, too.
Here's Otis Nixon. Nixon's a guy who had 94 steals one year in the minors when he was in the Yankee chain. And with the Yankee organization, a few years with Cleveland, now over in the National League. Once thought to be a superb prospect.
Well, his brother, Donnell, I think it was 1983 in the minor leagues. He stole 97. Talking about Otis, and Donnell stole something 144 in 135 games.
The Cardinals had Donnell, didn't they?
And Seattle did. Donnell tore his ankle up, ran into a wall, and missed more than a year, and just didn't quite come back from it.
Sabo pops it into shallow left center. And here is Nixon. A very fast last half of the sixth. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
It began as an Oscar-winning movie. It became a blockbuster television series. See how Carol O'Connor and Howard Rollins began their beat in the heat of the night movie, Tuesday.
It's the right beer. It's silver smooth. It's a sight. It's the light shining right on you. All the glitters all over town. The silver bullet won't slow you down. So come on into Coors Light. It's the right beer now. To the good life, yeah. The good life, yeah. So come on into Coors Light. It's the right beer now.
A lot of places promise you reliable brake repairs, but nobody beats Midas. Mrs. Purvis took no chances. She came to Midas for the same reason a million others did. Because Midas guarantees you brake shoes and pads for as long as you own your car. And the people who work on your brakes are trained brake experts, not amateurs. Don't take chances with your brakes. Come to Midas. Because nobody beats Midas. Nobody.
I didn't know Buick made a car like that. That's something we hear all the time about the newly designed Buick Regal. Since we introduced the '88 Regal, Buick Regal sales have been on the rise, and so have pulses when our customers slide behind Regal's digital dash and slip into its aerodynamic performance. And when you look at Regal's $12,879 sticker price, you'll say, I didn't know Buick made a car as affordable as that. Experience Regal at Borcherding, Conley, Countryside, Floyd Dugan, Hawks, and Janning Van Winsen.
World Wrestling Federation action tonight at 7.
There's a look at the Sabo do. Says it costs him $4 for the flat top, but apparently he's very particular. He walked out in the middle of a haircut once when he thought he was getting butchered.
Done, I remember that. Where did he go?
No idea, but I hope he was wearing a hat.
So he paid $2, went down the street and got the other half for $2?
He's amazing. He's the darling of the Cincinnati fans, no doubt about it. A strike to Galarraga as we move to the 7th. 0-2. Rio has struck out 9, and he's walked only 1.
Well, he has set down 8 in a row now. Bryn Smith has gotten 14 in a row. There's something going on in the Cincinnati dugout, and the first base umpire, Bob Davidson, is going over for some reason. I don't know if there's a light somewhere reflecting in someone's eyes.
He's got a smile on his face, so it isn't anybody heckling him or giving him a hard time.
Doug Harvey at second base was looking upstairs at something and send over the telephone in the dugout Bob Davidson. There may be something reflecting up here in somebody's eyes, or somebody with a mirror. They're calling upstairs to Jim Ferguson, I would assume, the PR director of the Cincinnati Reds. Are you a good lip reader, Robert?
Yeah, but he's in shadows here.
Oh.
I think that was directed toward us.
They don't, the broadcast from WLW is coming over the PA.
Oh, okay, well, we just heard, and you may have heard it in our, I don't know if that went over the air, apparently the broadcast from Marty Brenneman and Joe Nuxall, the radio broadcasters, WLW, is going over the PA system. You'd think the fans would enjoy that. Dodger Stadium, they bring in transistors for Vin.
There's Marty Brenneman, Joe Nuxall alongside, but more impressively by far, strikeout number 10 for Jose Rijo. He has struck out the last 3 hitters he's faced. First time today he's gotten Galarraga.
Marty's son in the business now in the area. Did a couple of games on television with Johnny Bench this year for the Cincinnati Reds. Pretty good talent, too.
QB Brooks 0 for 2.
Oh, have you ever seen this helpless slicking hitters off Rio? I mean, that's a high slider now. It's not even in a good spot, and it broke so late, QB couldn't even come close to it.
The 1-1. 1 and 2. You know what that slider is approaching, and I underline approaching because no one ever threw one quite like J.R. Richard. But J.R. Richard used to throw a 95, 96 mile-an-hour fastball and throw a slider that was around 89 or 90. I'll bet you Rio's slider is 86, 87 today.
Yeah, it is. J.R., no one's ever recorded one on those radar guns or any other way as quick as his was. Now he throws him a fastball. It's just a very defensive swing, still way late. Threw him a slider, a forkball, and now a fastball. Now he's going to throw that pitch that Juan told him, a new invention to finish him, whatever that new invention might be. He is overpowering.
Slap to right. O'Neill chasing it. Fair ball. Extra base hit. Brooks on his way to second, and apparently a fan touched it.
That was an outstanding at bat. He got embarrassed a couple of times, and he just kept cutting his swing down more and more and choking up and just waiting as long as he could. He just punched it into the right field corner. A little bit of a choke up, about a ½ an inch, and he just kind of flares it out to right field in a pitch that was up and out over the plate. I'd like to see Tim Wallach's RBI bat get in gear this year. Big part of their offense.
He's 0 for 2 so far today.
Wallach last year had 50 RBIs. 50 of his RBIs with 2 or more outs.
He finished
couldn't
what?
be more than 2 outs because it was hitting with an over. But 2 outs.
An excellent point, Tony.
I'm surprised you didn't pick up on it.
You'd kind of lulled me to sleep. Not only is it a great pitching duel, but it's that rarity. A game with a brisk pace. We've been at it only about an hour and a half. So many 3 and 3.5 hour games these days. 0 and 2. Last year, where did Wallach finish? 4th, I think, in the MVP balloting behind Dawson, Ozzie Smith, and Jack Clark. And then came Wallach. He's not having that kind of year in '88. He's going. He's heading for third. A throw from Reed. He's in there.
With 2 strikes and a right-handed interrupt, Sabo had to hold his position a long time, and he couldn't give Reed a good target. It was a high and inside fastball to Wallach, and Sabo made a nice play. Outstanding base running by Hubie Brooks. Rio with a high leg kick. Took him for granted. Ball almost gets by Reed, who at times hitting wears glasses. So Hubie with a good jump, and really they were trying to pick a pitch that might have been a forkball or a slider. It was a fastball up and in that was almost thrown by Jeff Reed. Now the infield's got to come in. It's only Hubie's 6th stolen base of the year.
The 2-2. Now Rio, who has struck out 10, really needs the strikeout. It is obvious that any run could be the game winner, the way Smith and Rio are cruising along. Brooks at third with 1 out. Another 2-2 pitch.
If you want to know what the average time on the radar gun of Rio's fastball, and sometimes that's irrelevant, but the average over the course of this ball game, we're in the 7th now, is average 92 miles per hour. There's the gun right behind home plate. If you went on the slower gun, that'd be in the high 80s. They say 3 to 5 miles per hour difference from the 2 guns most commonly used.
They also say he's had a couple around 95 or 96 today. Wallach hangs in.
One.
The Red Sox 11-5 in the 7th. It'll be 10 in a row for Joe Morgan. I wonder, we'll have to have the folks at the Elias Sports Bureau check, but this might be a record for the longest winning streak immediately after a manager is taken over in mid-season.
We've already had the longest losing streak after the manager took over. That happened earlier this year in Baltimore when Frank Robinson replaced Cal Ripken.
They were 0-6 under Cal and lost 15 more for Frank. Well, this could be it. Top half of the 7th. Brooks with an opposite field double, and then a key steal of third. 1 out, no score, and again the 2-2 pitch to Wallach. Line to center. They break through. Brooks scores, and it's 1-0 Montreal.
You just saw the Tim Wallach of last year. Battling off tough pitches, a forkball he pulled foul, fouling off fastballs, then he got a fastball out a little bit over the plate. Perhaps wasn't in as much as Rio wanted it or Jeff Reed, his catcher. The difference in the ballgame so far. Big steal by Hubie Brooks, got the infield in. Dennis Martinez, Nicaraguan born, having another outstanding year.
A ball to Foley. He's 0 for 2. He's been with the Reds, as Tony mentioned. Also had a stint with the Phillies. If you're just joining us, Tim Raines is not in the lineup today for the Expos. He has an injured shoulder. Something else that could become important as Scott Breeden, the pitching coach, goes to the mound and action starts now in the Cincinnati bullpen. Something that could be important from the Expos standpoint. They're without Raines, although he's available if they need to use him. But they don't have their best reliever, Jeff Parrott, who has been sensational. He has a cut finger. So if this game gets into the late innings, the guy they'd normally use as their closer, if Bryn Smith has to be relieved, is not available to them.
Tim hasn't taken batting practice the last couple of days. Buck Rogers said of him to the media before the ball game, he's got to be perfect if I even play him tomorrow. I'm not going to take a chance. If there's any slight strain, and Tim couldn't lift his arm above his shoulder today. Hit and run that time. They had the shortstop Oster covering, so the left side of the infield was open for Foley to hit through. Wallach has just one steal. He's been caught 3 times, so you can see they counting even as hard as Rio is throwing. Buck Rogers counting on Foley being able to put the bat on the ball.
Going again and fouled off again.
Well, when you're struggling, as these two offenses have been, not just today with outstanding pitching by Smith and Rio, you're going to try and move base runners a little bit more. And Buck Rogers is counting that they weren't going to pitch out. 1-1 count. To the mound from Scott Breeden was, I guess, just to check to see if Rio still feels all right. All the strikeouts, he's thrown quite a few pitches.
2-2 now. Thanks to the boys in the truck, they respond immediately with the information. The next pitch will be number 100. Ken Edmondson, our producer today. Bucky Gunst directing. Wallach's going on the 2-2 pitch, and Foley spoils it.
Well, Pete doesn't want to apparently pitch out with Rio. I guess it's because of the high pitch total at this point, or he feels, why pitch out with all the strikeouts? They're swinging through so many pitches anyway. We could get a swinging strike and still maybe Reed could throw him out. So why mess with pitching out? The impatience of the Yankees and the Oakland Athletics has allowed Cincinnati to come up with Rio. They questioned his makeup at one time, but he seems to be pretty tough out there now.
There he goes again. A roller to the right side. Treadway's only play is at first. Although in defense of the Yankees, as I recall, Rio was part of that big package for Ricky Henderson, right? Mm-hmm. So they needed to unload what they realized was a lot of potential future talent in order to get the guy they wanted.
You just saw a very important part of the game, more so in the National and the American League. Advancing a base runner, knowing how to make an out. Rogers relying on Foley, could start Wallach, what, 5 times in that series of pitches to him?
The Expos have really made Rio work in this inning. Even though they've had only 2 base runners, the Brooks double and the Wallach single. Wallach fouled off 5 pitches with 2 strikes before he got the big base hit of the game so far, and Foley, before grounding out, also fouled several off. Giants continue to lead at Busch Stadium, where they came 1 victory short of the World Series in 1987.
Hot team in that division now in the Western Division National League has been Houston. They've won 5 in a row. Rio's wearing down a little bit. I don't think, and this is scary, I don't think Rio has still reached his full physical maturity at age 23. I mean, you wait, like some pitchers mature when they're 26, 27. There's a chance he could get stronger. Right now it seems like there's not quite the edge on the slider or the fastball.
2-2 to Santovenia.
Randy St. Clair right-hander, and Rob Murphy, the left-hander. A 6-man bullpen for Pete Rose with that 4-man rotation.
You look at Murphy and Browning on that Red staff. They each look like a dead-end kid, don't they? Kind of the mugs they have. Stick that chin out. That's high.
You could almost throw Franco in there, too, couldn't you?
Well, he's got the Brooklyn background, so.
And they all just happen to be left-handed.
Wallach at second with 2 down. The 3-2 pitch. Struck him out for his 11th strikeout of the game.
Tough slider in a perfect spot.
Here's another edition of Baseball Remembers.
Gatorade Thirst Quencher presents the 7th inning stretch. Gatorade is thirst aid for that deep down body thirst. This switch-hitting pirate concluded 1987 in the top 10 in batting. In 88, he's gone further, mixing power with average. Can you name this up-and-comer?
Got a big, hot, healthy thirst for Gatorade. Speeding in fluids and minerals. Want my whole hot body wet with Gatorade. Supplying energy to working muscles. No, there's nothing better when I sweat. I just got to get Gatorade. When you're hot, nothing's better. Gatorade is thirsty. Ooh, I got to get it for that deep down body thirst.
The Bucks' Bobby Bonilla bubbles over in talent. He possesses one of baseball's rare traits, power from both sides of the plate. This 25-year-old slugger batted .300 in his first full season in Pittsburgh. And defensively, Bonilla fills the Pirates' dance card at third base. After a stint in the outfield, he's really caught on at the hot corner. The future is bright for the Pirates and their #1 hitman, Bobby Bonilla.
Next Sunday, live from Wembley Stadium, the San Francisco 49ers battle the Miami Dolphins. American football from jolly old England and NBC Sports.
Well, Rijo's been the more overpowering with the 11 strikeouts, but it's Bryn Smith now. It takes the 1-0 lead to the last of the 7th.
I don't think, and you have to look through the records, Bryn Smith has ever pitched to 6 innings like he has. He's retired the last 14 in a row. They're having difficulty getting the ball out of the infield. Finally, in the 6th, they had 2 fly balls weakly hit the left field. So he's been really changing speeds well, spotting the ball, and he's one of those who tells you to take the radar gun and junk it. And he's done it with control, movement of the ball, and change of speeds. Now let's see if he can close it out. Because Montreal is missing the guy who's been their big stopper all year. Jeff Parrott cut his hand. He's on the 15-day disabled list, so Buck Rogers has had to go to some other pitchers to close.
Davis, O'Neill, and Asaski doing the 7th. And a strike to Eric. You mentioned Hank Aaron in the same sentence with Eric Davis earlier. One similarity, certainly, the almost languid way that Davis stands at the plate, waiting for the pitch. Henry used to be up there looking as if he was taking a cat nap, and then all of a sudden would just uncoil and boom. 1-2.
There's an outstanding palm ball again to Davis. The last time up, when Otis Nixon took that ball almost out of the stands with Eric Davis, Davis was looking for a pitch inside. He got a fastball inside, but Bryn Smith was smart enough to throw it inside off the plate. He popped it up. Eric was trying to open up and get the pitch that he has a weakness with.
Davis is 0 for 2, comes into the game with a 7-game hitting streak. He's hit 16 homers. Two and 2.
Well, they've been talking about Davis playing through all these injuries, having an off year. He's got 51 RBIs, but again, when you factor in that they want to pitch around him, just like George Bell or Andre Dawson with the Cubs, after their big years last year. And this baseball new strike zone.
Here's a drive to right center. Martinez goes back, and just shy of the track, he makes the catch.
That little sneaky fastball that Bryn Smith put a little extra, had Davis catch it almost behind him. Little late swing, and he hits it in the air to center field, the big part of the ballpark. It's 15 in a row now set down by Bryn Smith. David Martinez could really go get the ball. You can see how he was tied up. Couldn't extend through the ball. And even at that, the ball carried pretty well.
O'Neill has struck out and grounded out.
It's funny, in different ways, the hitters on these two teams have really tried to go after the first pitch. Bryn Smith, not because he's overpowering like Rio, but because when he gets you 2 strikes, he can spot the ball more. Or throw you that palm ball like he just did. And Rio, for a different reason, they're jumping on the first pitch because he's so overpowering and striking out so many. It's made for a quick game.
Smith has walked 2, allowed 1 hit. A bloop single in the second by the catcher, Jeff Reed. Here's a drive to left center field. Nixon started in, circles back, and makes the catch. 16 in a row.
One thing that has been pretty solid for Buck Rogers so far this year has been his defense. And speed out there now, good throwing arms. They've had a little trouble at shortstop with Rivera. They've had a couple different people there.
Even as well as he's pitched, Smith has had 3 good defensive plays made behind him. Nixon went into the stands in foul ground to snare a ball hit by Davis in the 4th. Hubie Brooks robbed Jeff Reed of at least a double with a great skidding catch along the line in right in the 5th. Swing and a miss by Asaski. And back in the 3rd, Cal Daniels hit one toward the hole between 1st and 2nd, and Galarraga sprawled to make a terrific play and throw to Smith covering for the out. But Bryn hasn't needed much help the way he's pitched.
Bryn has pitched almost like a Harvey Dinnerstein painting today. I just pulled it out. You know, there's a great art show here at the Contemporary Arts Center. Tom Seaver's got a lot to do with it. All baseball art and tapes and so forth.
There's a base hit.
Dinnerstein's the guy that did the famous DiMaggio oil portrait, that great swing.
Oh, that Harvey Dinnerstein.
Yeah. The art exhibit called Diamonds Are Forever. It's in here in Cincinnati. I had a chance to spend about 2 hours there yesterday afternoon. Missed Tom Seaver, but boy, it's just wonderful. Bud Abbott, Lou Costello was a big hit. We got that on tape.
Who's on first?
The great Casey at the bat. Teller and Pendle. Marvelous comedy team.
But I believe you have them flip-flopped. It's Penn and Teller.
Well, I saw it in reverse.
You are a genuinely bizarre man. Reed's 1 for 2. Today's attendance has just been announced. A bit over 31,000. Saski at first with 2 out. 0-2 to Reed.
Once again, they are shifted over toward left field. Wallach's almost down the 3rd baseline at 3rd, and Hudler playing almost in the shortstop hole. Going to pitch him away and play him away.
Drive caught by Wallach.
Outstanding defense and positioning, coordinating with the pitcher.
The Reds get their 2nd hit off Smith, but no more. 1-0 Expos.
Okay, so you love your car. Whoa. You're not going inside yet. The tires, the 4 round things underneath. There you go. Now, see that armor all protected? Wipe some of that stuff on the tires and bumpers. Okay, now get in the car and do the dash and the seats. You can do this. I mean, this is not rocket science. Now, look at your car. Now go in the house and tell them how hard you worked. Go ahead. They don't know about Armor All. They'll buy it.
The Johnsons' first house was the biggest investment they'd ever made, so they wanted the best homeowners insurance that they could find. I'm State Farm agent John Caldwell. After Terry and Barbara checked around, they came to State Farm. They found the protection they wanted at the right price, plus the personal service people expect from a State Farm agent. One day they may find a house they like better, but they'll never find a better homeowner's insurance value.
And like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
In Matilda Bay, there's only one thing that'll turn an ordinary night on the town into a night to remember. Matilda Bay Cooler.
Little nip of the smooth refresher.
Matilda Bay's a different kind of cooler, now made in the States. It's sensationally smooth, exotically refreshing, wildly unique. Try original fruit and new special dry. Take your taste away from the everyday.
I want a man with a slow hand. He's got a face that I love to touch.
Introducing the new Schick Ultrex Plus. Its pivoting head has a lubricating comfort strip and one push cleaning to shave you smoother than ever.
A touch this easy makes me understand. When it comes to love, I want a slow
New Schick Ultrex Plus, the easy touch for the ultimate shave.
Rio has struck out 11, the National League high this year, 12. 4 different pitchers have reached it. Kevin Gross of the Phillies, Sid Fernandez and David Cohn of the Mets, Mike Scott of the Astros. In the American League, Mark Langston of Seattle struck out 16 in a game, and Roger Clemens of the Red Sox, who holds, of course, the single-game record when he struck out 20 Mariners 2 years ago in one game. Clemens has had 2 16-strikeout games this year.
The only thing unusual about the list is that we don't hear Noli's name mentioned. Nolan Ryan at over 40 still, striking out 1 per inning.
Jose Rio's personal high happens to be 16. Did it for Oakland against Seattle in 1986. 1-1 to Hudler.
With Hudler playing short today and up at the plate, give you a name to remember, folks. Delino DeShields. The kid's about 19 years old. Was a great point guard in high school, and he was drafted late, and Montreal got him. He's a shortstop, left-handed hitter, playing A-ball. He's got about 50 stolen bases already. But everybody thought he was going to go to Villanova, play basketball there for Raleigh. And he is a great-looking prospect, they tell me.
Strikeout number 12 for Rio as Hudler is called down on a pitch on the outside corner.
Outside, perhaps a little beyond. Reed had a backhanded.
So it's the young man's name is DeShields, you said?
Delino DeShields, left-handed hitter, goes about 6'1". He's about 160, 165 now. Got a little power. In fact, Montreal goes play their Indianapolis farm team. And they're going to bring him up just to take a look at him. He's going to stay at A-ball all year long, I think. Wallace Johnson.
Bryn Smith is coming out of the game, and the switch hitter Wallace Johnson, who's tied for the league lead with 11 pinch hits. Joel Youngblood of the Giants has the same number. Johnson comes up, so they figure that 7 innings is enough for Bryn Smith. He pitched 2-hit ball for 7 innings, has a 1-0 lead, and now they'll try and get some insurance. 2-0 to Johnson.
Wallace, the accountant, who spends his time doing a lot of the complicated tax forms. Some of these players. Bryn Smith was marvelous. One time he retired 16 consecutively before the Osowski base hit. And you just saw why in the last almost month Montreal's ERA for start has been below 2. Look at that play. Sure, you got it from the kid behind you. Little 3-year-old kid caught it, gave it to our cameraman. He's being a hero.
Interesting interpretation. 2-2 to Johnson. This could be Rio's last inning. In the bottom half of the 8th, Oster's the leadoff man, and then Rio's due. Unless Oster reached and Pete Rose decided he wanted to let Rio bunt in order to leave him in the game. Otherwise, you figure Jose will be done. You're about to be proven wrong, Tony. The guy caught it on the fly and deserves your appreciation and applause.
So we've seen 4 good plays in the ballpark today.
Johnson works Rio for a walk. Only the second Jose has allowed.
When Rio was simply a thrower, his first couple of years in the big leagues, this is the time of the ball game where he would get flustered, try to overthrow, make bad pitches, but he has gradually become a better pitcher. And he can get over these, the arm tires a little bit, get over these rough spots.
Nixon has flied to left and then struck out twice against Rio.
Look what he's done, too, is Scott Breeden having taught him that with the seam fastball, more of a sinking or a tailing action, he can go with that pitch and hopefully get the double play.
Adler struck out to start the inning. Johnson batted for Smith, drew a walk. There's Bryn Smith, allowed 2 hits, struck out 6, walked 2 in 7 brilliant innings. Stands to be the winner, can't be the loser. There goes the runner. It's a pitch out. Reed's throw cuts him down.
So perhaps Pete Rose, who refused to pitch out in the last inning with Wallach attempting to steal or hit in a hit-and-run situation 5 times last inning. Pete Rose picks the right pitch, relays it to Jeff Reed. Pitches out. Wallace Johnson won't get his first steal of the season. He's out by the proverbial mile.
Now a roller to short. Oster.
Better hurry.
Barely got him. Boy, can Nixon motor. So it remains 1-0 Expos.
From the folks who gave you Matilda Bay Original Fruit Cooler comes a crisper, drier taste. New Matilda Bay Special Dry. A drier way to take your taste away from the everyday.
How could Thompson's water seal be improved? It's great already. Well, Thompson's could apply itself. But we've improved Thompson's with 50% more active ingredients for more waterproofing power on wood, brick, and concrete. Thompson's, the first name and lasting protection.
Best Western means instant worldwide reservations for all my clients.
Wherever my tours go, I can depend on Best Western. Best Western has rates to fit your expense allowance.
Best Western has a variety and locations for any kind of meeting.
They have convenient locations no matter how you travel.
Whatever your reason for traveling, Best Western is the right place at the right price with over 3,000 independently owned and operated hotels worldwide. So for Best Western reservations, call your travel agent.
Mom, where's my other red sock?
Okay. Oh, it's just a little stomach thing.
Mom!
I'm late.
I have to wear red socks or I'll look like a nerd.
I knew it. You're sick.
I forgot how bad diarrhea feels.
Don't worry. All you need is this.
Here it comes. The soothing relief of Pepto-Bismol. The one that coats is the only one you need.
Feeling better?
A-okay.
Great. Now, if I could only find Susie's red sock.
Did you look in the laundry?
4 times 6. 24. 4 times 7.
Get up and go. The preceding message was furnished by Major League Baseball.
The left-hander Joe Heskett comes out of the bullpen for Buck Rogers. The lion's share of the saves have belonged to Jeff Tarrant, but as we've mentioned, he's sidelined with a cut finger. And so now it's Heskett or Burke, people like that that Rogers has to rely upon.
Hesketh was a brilliant young starter for this ball club. He was 10-5 in '85 and started the season '86, and of course had a nerve impingement, had some surgery on his left shoulder, and has come back and now is relieving. Left-handers do not fare very well against Cincinnati with all their right-handed power. And of course, one of the reasons perhaps to turn Oster around and then Collins, the pinch hitter, when he's announced, hit him from the right side and hold the running game of Cincinnati down with the left-hander. Or try to anyway.
Oster struck out both times against Smith. This was Bryn Smith's 19th start. Luis Rivera, the new shortstop, he replaces Pudler. The 1-1 pitch from Hesketh. 2-1. The 19th start of the year for Bryn Smith, and he had pitched just one complete game prior to this. So even though he had a two-hitter going, it's not surprising that Buck Rogers removed him for a pinch hitter, particularly on this very warm day in Cincinnati. The well-traveled Dave Collins will be next.
Not officially in the ball game yet. And you never know what might happen if Oster hit a home run and tie it up. Rio might end up hitting for himself in the tie ball game. Depends upon what his conversation with Pete Rose is and how he is feeling. And he seemed like he still had something left in that last inning. Hesketh for the basic 4 pitches, fastball, curve, slider, change. Doesn't have an overpowering fastball, but as I recall, he can get pretty sneaky with that easy delivery.
Nothing Expos, last of the 8th. There have been just 5 hits in the game, 3 for Montreal. They put 2 of them together in the 7th, a double by Brooks and a single by Wallach to produce the only run. The Reds have just 2 hits, singles by Reed and Nasaski. There have been 18 strikeouts in the game. And make it 19.
Wow. Breaking ball that backdoors Ron Oster. Ron says it's
in the 7th, a double by Brooks and a single by Wallach to produce the only run. The Reds have just 2 hits, singles by Reed and Nasaski. There have been 18 strikeouts in the game. And make it 19.
Wow. Breaking ball that backdoors Ron Oster. Ron says it's too high, so he argues with Bonet, the home plate umpire.
And a dubious hat trick for Ron Oster. He struck out all 3 times, twice against Smith and now against Hesketh. Hesketh's first strikeout, Smith had 6, and of course Rio has a dozen for the Reds.
Twice Ron's been called out on strikes now. You know, that 1 run that was scored, those were 2 outstanding at-bats. Hubie Brooks, 2 strikes, that double. And Hubie stealing third base was a big play to draw the infield in. And then off Rio, Wallach got a 2-strike base hit also.
A ball to Dave Collins. Switch hitter who's very fast, so if he gets aboard, it'll leave Rose some options.
Now, it's interesting. Apparently, now Larkin hitting over 300 with that speed, perhaps cannot hit. Diaz, who has power, can get you a run with 1 swing. He's got a bad knee.
Collins comes through with a hit. In his first stint with the Reds, when he was a 300 hitter, Collins stole around 60, 70 bases. He doesn't play enough to build up those kind of numbers now, but he's a threat.
You can see how Buck Rogers had looked an inning ahead to the Cincinnati Reds bench. whom they had. He has an inkling who's hurt and can't hit or who can't. And is it Daniels, left-hander, now up? The 2 consecutive switch hitters turn him to the right side, and then Treadway to follow, although don't know if he'll hit.
A ball to Daniels. In 1980, when he hit .303 playing regularly, Collins stole 79 for the Reds. Then a few years later, he stole 60 for Toronto.
And that was a little bit of a platoon situation up in Toronto. He was their most valuable player that year.
He's got 6 steals and has been thrown out twice as a part-time player this year. 10 in a row for Joe Morgan. 11-5 Red Sox. Smithson the winner in relief. Dave LaPointe the loser for Chicago. 2-0. The Red Sox are right in the thick of it, just like that, in the American League East.
Ricky Henderson appears to be healthy after his day yesterday.
The Yankees are just a game back of the Tigers. 3-0.
There's nothing more frustrating for a manager than to bring a left-hander to get the percentages in your favor and then have him lose a left-handed hitter. Daniels is such a terrific guy and takes so many pitches.
In there to start the game. Daniels got ahead of Bryn Smith 3-0. Smith came back and struck him out. He's 0 for 3 overall. Collins inches away from first.
His fastball, but Hesketh did not take anything off. It was a fastball that ran in on his fists and swung right through. Now Pete Rose got to make up his mind if he's looking at strikeout and throw on out of the inning. He's going to start Collins. Collins has not been able to get a good lead off Hesketh. He's been going back to first base and quite a few times when Hesketh has been going home. I think Pete will start him. He's not a very conservative manager, which is good. He loves to move base runners.
He's going, and the ball is hit lazily to right.
They almost decoyed Collins. That was interesting.
He makes a U-turn, returns to first as Brooks records the second out.
You know, an interesting thing about that, and Joe Morgan, when he had those great years, MVP years here, when he stole, Collins was on those teams with Joe, and he learned it from him. Joe never looked at the pitcher or the pitch. He would always pick up somebody out of the play, a third baseman. And to show you Wallach, well, you probably can't see because he can't cover the whole field. Wallach went down on both knees to try and decoy Collins and almost got him sliding into second base. Collins was trying to pick up somebody out of the play, which would be a third baseman. You pick up the shortstop or second baseman, they're going to decoy him. And they almost had him sliding. That was Wallach's doing, sliding into third base as Collins trying to pick up his third base coach.
With the left-hander on the mound now, Rose calls Treadway back, and up comes Lloyd McClendon as a pinch hitter.
Well, so Diaz and Larkin unable to hit. Diaz with the knee, Larkin with a damaged hand diving into home plate.
You know, the last time we saw the Reds a couple of weeks ago in Philadelphia, Pete Rose, not complaining, but just stating the facts, told you it's bad enough to have people on the disabled list. But I've had so many games this year where my 24-man roster was really 20 or 21 because guys weren't badly enough hurt to put them on the list, but they were unavailable. Ground ball is short. That's going to finish it. Rivera with a low throw, but Foley comes up with it. The Reds get a hit, but leave a man. We move to the ninth. 1-0 Montreal.
Read any good beer bottles lately? This one tells you that Miller Genuine Draft is the one beer that's cold filtered, not heat pasteurized. So we haven't changed the rich, smooth taste of real draft beer. And you know what's the best thing about reading this bottle? It leads to a very happy ending.
A special feature's coming your way from Domino's Pizza to ruin the next day. It's a really big show, so don't be late. 2 regular cheese pizzas for just $8.88. Pay a bit more for toppings. It's all hot and fresh, because it's at your door in 30 minutes or less. Hurry, this won't last forever. Savings like these may be now or never. Domino's Pizza delivers savings.
Well, you know the bad news.
Charlie Carlson looks cool under pressure. But just because his shirt is dry doesn't mean he smells good. Because underarm odor is invisible, he needs Sure Solid. Sure helps protect against wetness and odor. So, Charlie, why go to work with a dry shirt and a false sense of security? Tomorrow, use Sure Solid and be just as sure about odor as you are about wetness.
I hear we have a new vice president.
Thanks.
It's the Quaker State Porsche Sweepstakes and Rebate, and everybody wins. Mail in the rebate by August 5th, and you'll have $360 per case in your pocket, a great oil in your engine, and maybe a Porsche in your garage. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
This is Marv Albert in New York. As Bob mentioned a moment ago, new Boston manager Joe Morgan made it 10-0 as the Red Sox beat the White Sox 11-5. Mike Smithson going 6 2/3 of one-hit relief. Red Sox have won 15 straight at home. They're only 3 games back. Back to Bob and Tony.
All right, Marv, the story here. Randy St. Clair comes out of the bullpen. And Chris Sabo will play shortstop for the first time this year. Lloyd McClendon, retired as a pinch hitter to end the 8th, stays in the game and plays third. This one is spanked to center, and Eric Davis backs up a few steps to take it. So that finishes David Martinez. Sabo in an unfamiliar position.
You want to have a little calmer disposition type person playing shortstop. Here's Galarraga now. He has 4 extra base hits in the 9 games since the All-Star break. We understand that we've lost the video momentarily, so we'll try and do a radio-style description for you in the meantime. Galarraga is on a pace right now. He has 56 extra base hits. Project that over the full season. He'd have 95. This ball is hit well to right center field. Paul O'Neill's in a warning track and makes a nice running catch. O'Neill is cheating and playing fairly shallow for Galarraga, who perhaps has as good a power as anybody to right center field. And a pitch low and away, and a nice running catch by O'Neill. Went a long way. So Galarraga made a bid for an extra base hit, but couldn't get it. Right now, he's got at least an outside chance to have 100 extra base hits. To give you an idea of how rare that is, it's only happened once since World War II. Stan Musial had better than 100 in 1948. And remember, they were playing just 154-game schedules then. St. Clair starts Hubie Brooks with a strike. In the entire history of baseball, only a tiny handful of players, and every one of them is in the Hall of Fame. Ruth, Gehrig, Hornsby, Greenberg, Fox, people like that. Just a tiny handful, 7 or 8, have had better than 100 extra base hits in a single season.
Galarraga uses the whole field so well. He'll hit down the left field line as well as you on the right field line. The interesting thing about Galarraga, he strikes out so much. He's about 90, 91 now.
Hubie Brooks hits one toward left field, and over to make the catch is Cal Daniels. It's a 1-2-3 top of the 9th. Last lick coming for the Reds, trailing 1-0. We're working on the video problem. Again, we apologize. We'll be back after this.
Now, a revolution in blade shaving from Remington, the new Remington Electro Blade with vibrating blades for a close, smooth, comfortable shave. Safe, immersible, and cordless. The new Remington Electro Blade vibrating blade system.
If you think you've heard all there is about aspirin, think again. Today, there's an even better aspirin formula, Anacin. Clinical tests show that Anacin relieves headache pain better than regular strength aspirin.
Anacin, a better aspirin formula.
Now let me see. Big selection. No waiting. What else?
Oh, yes, the big savings on Corolla FX options packages. And Camry, too. If I could just get over there. Hurry home! Well done, man. Carry on. Oh, no. You can save big on Camry options packages, too. So...
Toyota's really big sales event. It only happens once a year, and it's happening now.
No.
Right now, the only thing that would taste better than a nice cold one is a cold filtered one. Yeah, if you want a beer whose real draft taste hasn't been changed by heat pasteurization, we've got it down cold. Cold filtered Miller Genuine Draft.
It's as real as it gets.
We have our picture back, and so you're looking at Tracy Jones, the new right fielder. Hubie Brooks is out of the game. Jones hits in the 8th spot in the batting order. The new pitcher, Tim Burke, hits in the 4th spot, vacated by Brooks. Burke trying to save it. Sabo to lead it off, and he takes a strike. We're in the last half of the 9th. The Reds trail 1-0.
Burke last year with an outstanding year with a bullpen with 18 saves, ERA way below 2. This year he struggled a little bit.
His breaking ball is lofted to left. Moving over from center field for the catch is Martinez.
He got away with a hanging slider right there. You see how the run scored, Bobby?
This was back in the 7th with 2 strikes on him. Hubie Brooks reaches for a Rio pitch, pokes it down the right field line. It's barely fair, and it bounces over the fence for a double. He then steals third, which forces the Reds infield to come in, and Wallach, after fouling off 5 pitches with 2 strikes, lines what could be the game-winning hit to center field. And right now, Bryn Smith is 2 outs away from a victory. Big cut by Eric Davis for strike 1. If the Reds lose this, Jose Rio will have won 3 of his last 5 starts, with an ERA in that stretch of barely over 1 a game, and both defeats will be by 1-0 scores. The Phillies beat him 1-0 a couple of weeks ago, and he's about to absorb another bit of heartbreak here. Davis fly to deep right center his last time up. The 1-1 pitch. Threw it by him.
You know, when you look at the names on the Cincinnati Ball Club, and they do have a lot of youth, Pete Rose, you wouldn't think the running game and some of the bats that they would be second last in the league in team batting average. Only Philadelphia has a lower team average, and that's the reason for their fairly lengthy slump now as a team. Difficulty scoring runs.
Strike 3 swinging. The Reds are down to their last out. And Davis hears some boos from the home fans.
Tim Burke, strength perhaps keeping the ball down, and that ball had a lot of movement on it that he got Eric Davis with.
Watch the unusual windup of Burke with the hands separated until the last moment. O'Neill hits it hard, but that's going to do it. Foley to Galarraga in a brilliantly pitched game on both sides. Bryn Smith is the winner with relief help first from Hesketh and then from Burke. Smith, the winner, is 7-6. Rio, who was absolutely overpowering with 12 strikeouts while he was in there, allowing only 3 hits. He is the tough luck loser. His record goes to 11-5.
If you like the DH-less league and you love a lot of strategy and good movement of players and personnel.
This game is brought to you by Busch Beer, the beer with a taste as smooth as its name. And by Toyota and your local Toyota dealer. There's quality, then there's Toyota quality. And by Long John Silver's, where we want to see you happy. And by Community Mutual Blue Cross and Blue Shield, because just any blue won't do.
Good evening from Southern California, San Diego's Jack Murphy Stadium on a beautiful Friday evening. We're happy to have you with us along the Reds Television Network. Jay Randolph along with Johnny Bench. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the Reds have a chance to get to 500. It would be the first time since late May.
Well, they certainly have to get back there. They have to get a little farther than that. This is the key series, obviously, being down in San Diego just before you go to L.A., and you've got to try to beat the Padres. It's not easy to do right now because they are playing good baseball. Before you go to L.A., you have to get that team just ahead of you, and you can't go to sleep here. And, of course, Jack Armstrong right now, very interested in getting a win for the Reds.
If Armstrong can get a victory tonight, it would be 3 in a row for him. He goes against the talented veteran Andy Hawkins. The Reds took 3 out of 4 in Atlanta, and Sasky was, as usual, very, very tough at Atlanta's Fulton County Stadium.
Kind of like Sherman through Georgia. It's a Sasky down in Georgia. He owns it. He dominates.